In this video, I'm going to be performing an oil change on this laptop. Now, it's what I call a Windows oil change, which means I'm going to completely wipe the drive out, use this USB thumb drive here to reinstall Windows 11 on here, and get it fresh and new again. I'm going to take you step by step through this process, so let's go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and today we're going to be reinstalling Windows 11 on here. I call this a Windows oil change because just like with your car, you need to change that oil every now and then. With Windows, it can get gunked up. You can get stuff downloaded on there that you didn't want to download on there, and we're just going to completely wipe it out and start from fresh. Now you can do this with Windows 10 or Windows 11. In this case, I've got Windows 11 boot disk here. I just made a video on how to create one of these. I'll go ahead and link that right up here. Super easy. You do it all from Microsoft's website and get one of these and you'll be ready to go. So this is a fully running laptop with Windows, and it belongs to a friend of mine, and he said he just wanted to wipe it clean and start over. So that's what we're going to do for him today. Now remember, before you do this, to take anything that you want that's on this hard drive and save it out before you start this. So either upload everything that you want to save to the cloud, or get yourself a thumb drive and save everything on that, or a backup drive, because everything, and I mean everything, is going to get taken out of here. The programs, your documents, your games, all that's going to be gone. You're going to start with Windows fresh, and then you can start installing all your software and copying your files back over from there. So the first thing we have to do is boot this thing up with this Windows boot drive. This particular drive here has both a USB-A side and a USB-C side. On some computers, they don't like to boot from USB-C, or they don't like to boot from higher speed USBs, so I like to have the option. I'm just going to pop it into one of these USB-A's on the left here. So now that we have the thumb drive plugged in down here, the next thing we need to do is boot the computer, but make it boot to the thumb drive. Now, depending on your model of computer or your model of motherboard, the key combination may be different. You have to press a certain key up here to get it to boot to a different disk. So just go ahead and Google your laptop model or computer model and see which one it is. For this MSI laptop, it's F11, so I'm going to hit the power button, and I'm just going to start tapping F11, and hopefully we'll see some kind of boot option screen. And there we go. So on the screen, I've got the option of booting to Windows Boot Manager, which would be my normal Windows, or this verbatim store and go partition 1, and I know that that's what this thumb drive is. So I'm going to click on that and hit enter. And again, your screen may look different, but hopefully it'll be easy to figure out. So now we can see that we're booting into something. If this happens to actually boot into Windows on your computer, then you can always shut the thing down, try a different keyboard combination, and try again. But in our case, we are here at the Windows setup screen. So let me zoom in a little bit on the screen, and I'll step you right through this. Alright, so in this first screen here, we have a couple options, but most of these are determined by the boot drive itself. So this is already set for English because that's the type of boot drive that I created. And we have some other options on time format and then keyboard format. I'm going to keep all that as default and click next. Then we have the option here in the middle for install now, or down here in the bottom left for repair your computer. Remember, the premise of this video is to go ahead and install Windows fresh, so we don't want to repair anything. We're just going to click install now. Next thing we're going to be faced with is this license terms. We're going to go ahead and accept that and click next. And then our next options here are to upgrade or install and keep Windows files, or do a custom install and install Windows only. So we're going to do this bottom one. We don't want to repair anything. We don't want to keep anything. We're going to do a fresh install. So now we have our list of drives and partitions. Now remember, everything is going to be erased, and that's what we're going to be doing right now. So make sure you already have everything backed up that you need. And make sure also that you know how many drives you have in your computer and which drives are which. In this case, I only have one drive. It's called drive 0, and it has 4 partitions. If you have different drives in here, you may have drive 0, you may have drive 1. Make sure you know which one it is that you're deleting. In some cases, it's safest just to unplug all the drives except for the Windows drive while you do this process. In our case, there's only one drive, so I'm going to proceed. So the next thing I need to do is delete all these partitions. So I'm going to take any one of these partitions here and click on delete. It's going to warn me, hey, you're getting rid of everything. And then once that's done, that partition will disappear and I'll have this unallocated space left over. So I'm going to go through the rest of these and hit delete. And we'll notice that that unallocated space will continue to grow as we delete these other partitions. We want to end up with just what we see here in just a second. That will be drive 0 unallocated space all by itself. And you can tell that the total size here should be somewhat close to the size of your hard drive. In my case, it's a 500 gigabyte SSD, so I know that this thing is clean now. Once I have just this drive 0 unallocated space, it's time to click Next. And it's going to start copying over some files to get everything ready from the thumb drive onto your hard drive so it can go ahead and start installing Windows 11. So I'll let this stuff copy over, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, once it copies everything over, it's going to give you an option here to reboot, and you can go ahead and let it count down for the full 10 seconds, or just click the Restart Now. So now it's going to go ahead and boot up, and it should be in that Windows 11 setup screen. And after some loading and a quick reboot, here I am at the Windows 11 setup screen. Now this probably looks a lot like it did when you first bought your computer and you set it up for the first time. And we're going to step through some of these screens, but some of them may be different depending on when you do this. But the first thing I'm going to do is a little trick so that I won't have to install a Microsoft Windows account on here. As we step through these steps, at some point it wants us to log in with a Microsoft account, and I just want to have a local account without Microsoft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift F10, and once the command prompt opens up, you have to click into the box so that the cursor works, and we're going to type in here in all caps OOBE /bypass NRO, and then hit enter. And immediately it's going to reboot and come back into that Windows 11 setup. Now all of this is assuming that I haven't set up internet yet, which I haven't got to the screen yet to set up any kind of Wi-Fi, and I don't have any Ethernet cables plugged in. And here we go back at the Windows 11 screen, and this time we can go ahead and start stepping through, and it's going to give us an option that we didn't have before, and I'll show you where that is. So I'm going to click the country, United States. I'm going to select my keyboard. I'm going to skip the second keyboard, and at this point it's going to bring up our options for network connection, and you can see my Ethernet is disconnected and it wants me to select a Wi-Fi, but in this case now we have this down here that wouldn't have shown up if we didn't do that little DOS box thing. So I'm going to click on I don't have internet, and it's going to warn us that we won't be able to set everything up, and we're going to be okay with that. Continue with limited setup. So now we can just type in a name here, and that's going to be a local user account instead of having to go through a Microsoft account. Now you can always add a Microsoft account later, but for now I'm just going to create a local user named user and click next. And I'm going to skip the password in this case. As far as the privacy settings go, I'm just going to keep the default. You can select any of those that you want to turn off. And now it's going to start finalizing the Windows 11 setup. Let's let this run, and I'll be back when it's done. So the next thing we need to do is get all of our drivers loaded up. And what I usually do is I usually hook up the internet, get all the updates done, and the updates are going to load some drivers, and then I see which ones haven't loaded, and then I try to get those worked out one by one. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up to the internet and start my updates. So you have the option of either hooking up to Wi-Fi, or in my case I just hooked up a Ethernet cable, and now I've got internet ready. So I'm going to go to Settings, Windows Update, and I'm going to check for updates. I'm going to let all this stuff happen. Now while it's going on, sometimes I will go ahead and load up the device manager by clicking on search and start typing in device and pulling that up, and this will show any kind of drivers that haven't loaded in, and I'll just kind of let this sit in the background, and as the updates go through then I can go back and check to see which of these have been picked up. But some things like GPUs, you'll want to go ahead and get the actual GPU driver from the website, but I'm going to let this go ahead and run for a while, and I'll be back when it's done. Alright, so after a lot of downloading and a couple reboots, I am back here at the Windows Update screen, and now it says everything is up to date. So that is clean, and I look over here at the device manager, and luckily enough everything loaded itself in. So like I said, if you have some things here that didn't load in a good driver, you may have to go to the manufacturer's website of your computer or laptop and find the drivers there and download them directly. But once you get that all done, we are done with Windows 11. So it's completely installed. This is fresh, clean, brand new, ready for us to load our programs and load our files onto. So remember, if you didn't have that thumb drive, or if you need to know how to make a Windows 11 boot thumb drive, go ahead and check out that video. I'll have that link down below also, and that will step you right through step by step how to create that USB thumb drive. Now, as long as you were loading this onto a computer that already had Windows 11 running on it, then you shouldn't have to worry about any kind of licensing. But if you want to double check, you can go to System, and then scroll all the way down to About, and then you can scroll down to Product Key and Activation, and you can see the activation state here is active. If you were installing this on a brand new PC that never had an operating system on it before, then you may need to figure out how to get a license key for Windows 11. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you found this informative. Hopefully you got all the answers that you needed. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them down in the comments below. If you found this helpful at all, I do appreciate a thumbs up. That helps out the channel. But I thank you as always for watching, and until next time, peace out and geek out.